All right, so just finished the first episode of Wheel of Time. I'm going to do a little video recap reaction real quick per video, and then I'll post them all together, these first three episodes, since they're dropping on the same night. I'm actually really pleasantly surprised. I'm going to be honest, I was going into this sort of expecting to be disappointed, not necessarily like in the series as a whole, but it's really hard to enter a fantasy world. Like even remember the first couple episodes of Game of Thrones. It's kind of weird and awkward. It's not great. Characters aren't established. There's some weird lines. The pilot of Game of Thrones is not great. It's enough to get you interested in the world, and then eventually they are able to like develop more and more and make it better. So anyway, I was going in with that mindset, and I think really good. By the way, this is spoilers for the first episode, but not spoilers for the whole series. I've read the series, so I know some stuff, but I'm not going to talk about that, just this video in particular. So let's get to some positive negatives. First negative, that scene with the Red Aja, or what's going to be the Red Aja, catching a man who can channel. I liked and disliked for certain reasons. Liked the, like, there's two men and there's just one man to kind of show the craziness that the one power on the men's side brings. I think that was really well done, very subtle, and it's going to pay dividends in the long run. Two, I don't like the line of like, this is powers for women kind of thing. Because one of the things I really don't like about the main series is sort of the gender politics that's done with it. And Rafe Judkins, the showrunner, has said that that's not something he wants to get into. So I'm not too worried about that in the long term, but it felt kind of clunky. Again, that's just like world establishing. I understand that that's going to get, some clunky stuff's going to happen. So I wasn't really that turned off by it. I loved the main characters. I will say, it's kind of sad, I know. So Matt, the actor who plays Matt, is being recast, which I think is sad because of the four main young ones in Amon's Field, like, I think the actor that plays Matt does the best job. I love their introduction of his family and some of the troubles they're in, and like how he has to survive being from a poor family. Like, I love that aspect of like developing his character. Rand, I feel like, is a little bland. Just kind of like, a guy with his dad. I like that he and Egwene were a good couple, but I also liked that Egwene got the majority of the screen time. And then Perrin. Now, Perrin, that is a choice. So in the books, as probably many of you know, Perrin is not married. Everyone is actually much younger. They're more like 15 rather than 20. They've aged them up a little bit, I think, for good reasons as far as casting is concerned. But him being married, I think, was, at first, I was all into it. I was like, this is great, because Perrin as a character is really racked with sort of doubt and guilt, and I thought him leaving his wife or his wife dying in this attack might really add to that. They really doubled down on that with him actually being the one to kill his wife. I don't know if I like that side of it, but that could pay dividends with some of his more, let's say, animalistic attributes that might, again, pay dividends in the future. So I'm going to wait and see on that. I thought it was a pretty bold move. Again, I just want to say again, the actor that plays Matt, I thought was phenomenal. The most personality by far of any of those main actors. Again, this is in one series. Moraine and Lan, let's just talk about that. Awesome. I thought the fight of that night is really great. I thought this was a great introduction. I thought it really got people going. Very interesting. I loved the quote said at the end that's actually the first paragraph of the first chapter, that, a wind was blowing from the mountains of mist. It was not the beginning, but it was a beginning. I think that's great that they gave it to Moraine. All that is good. My main negative also is I'm not a huge fan of the Trollocs. It's very, like, true to the books, that they're, like, really tall, have, like, a mixture of animal features, and are not humanoid at all. So I understand why they did that. I actually would prefer for them not to be as clear to the book, but more clear to visual, or not clear, but make it easier for them to visually make it in, like, with prosthetics and like more lifelike, like they do in Lord of the Rings. These Trollocs were very much CGI, well done CGI, but also I think that will make it harder in the long term to sustain, sort of, as we get larger amounts of Trollocs. There's a lot of Trollocs in this series, so Massive fan of making them CGI. I mean, that's why you normally have to have them at night because it's harder to do CGI in the day. That's tough. On the other side of things, I actually thought they did a very good job with the Midral. Because in the books, at least for me, the Midral are very much ring wraiths. Like the only difference is that sometimes you can see their pale face, but that's like it. I thought they had a very nice distinction with how they portrayed Midral. We obviously haven't seen them in action yet, but I think it's going to be good as we go forward. I really happily surprised, very excited to start episode 2. So that's what I'm going to do. Oh, also we got some land butt, which choice. Love it. And that goes into the tone, I think, is very well, very like mature, which I think is good. Let's see how Callie liked it. Callie was at my feet for most of the first show. Hey, Callie. Hey, Callie. What did you think of the first episode? Attack my hand if you think it was a good episode. Oh, maybe she didn't like it. Oh, nope, she's attacking it. She's just, maybe like me, she's kind of positives and negatives, not really sure. There we go. A little better. All right, Callie, you ready to start the second episode? I don't know, she looks kind of distracted. Well, we'll try. Anyway. All right, Callie, what did you think of episode 2? Hey, Callie, what do you think? What did you think of the portrayal of the White Cloaks? Good? Shagar Logate, did you think that was interesting? Okay, yeah. Moraine, what do you think Tom's up to? You don't seem super interested. Should we watch the third episode or call it a night? What do you think? All right. So it seems like Callie's kind of neutral on this whole Wheel of Time thing. All right, so episode 2 is in the books. Again, sort of a mixed bag. I think I was proven right in the sense of, like, I don't think the Trollocs looked very good in the brief daylight shot we got, but they kept them in darkness. I think it's interesting when they choose to portray scale and when they don't. They really like the big drone shots to sort of portray the scale of the world and mountains and how they're moving. But the action scenes and set pieces are very small. Like Shagar Logath, it's very narrow, small streets, small rooms, small tunnels. Like one area of this wall. The trees look very small, not like part of a fuller forest. I don't know exactly how you don't portray it that way, but that's how I'm getting the feel of it. Here's what I think is interesting. I guess what I'm getting at after this second series, I'm realizing all the awkwardness of first seasons of television, which first seasons of television are almost always awkward. Because again, you're establishing, even like in sitcoms, you're establishing so much of this world, the characters, how they talk, how they act, that it's hard to get sort of a really polished product, no matter what the series or genre is. I mean, from The Office to Friends to Game of Thrones, like I said before, like there's a very different feel to a first season than like latter seasons, and normally it gets better. But the interesting thing about this series is, so normally in first series of television, they don't have as big a budget because they're seeing if it works, if there's chemistry, and studios don't normally take big swings on first seasons of television. And obviously with Amazon spending the amount of money they did on the Wheel of Time show, that's different. They've spent a ton of money. There's a ton of production value. So it's interesting, all this to say, I think it's interesting to see sort of the growing pains of a new world, the new characters that you normally would see in television, but also mixed with an incredibly high production value and like budget value. And I think sometimes that's kind of to the detriment because it makes those small errors stand out a little more than they normally would have. Like the close-quarteredness of the directorial shots. A real love for like darkly lit scenes. It's very gray. The color tones are very muted. And this could just be the beginning, but even in the springtime festival, it was very dark, focused, and I'm not a huge fan of that. But normally that's because smaller productions and things look better in the dark. But with a better production budget, I wonder why they have made that choice. Um, Other thing with the characters, there's some oddities and inconsistent times, and I would say the biggest weakness up to this point is Rand, which is also a hardship in the book too. Tom is kind of a it's Tom. Rand is kind of a bitchy, whiny character for a lot of it, and that's sort of the point. Um, and Jordan tries to portray these people as like actual farmers or whatever, not knowing how to do anything and being, kind of lost in the shuffle. So, but the actor just isn't bringing anything, honestly, to the Rand character. His tension with Egwene only works because I think Madeline, whatever her last name is, the actress who plays Egwene, is like pulling weight for both of them. She's doing a very good job. I think Egwene and Matt are head and shoulders as far as chemistry and getting us as characters and their actual acting chops, head and shoulders above the actors who play Perrin and Rand. And I think that's really obvious. And it could just be that those characters haven't grown, or those actors haven't grown into their characters yet. No one is like, well, I shouldn't say no one, but usually it takes a little while to like settle into a character. I think Sophia Turner is a really great example of that in Game of Thrones. At the beginning, Sansa Stark is like just really annoying, which she is in the book, but also like it's not like it's a great acting performance to be an annoying, weird girl, and it's kind of clunky. But by the end, great character. So there's hope still. It's not like this is going to be bad for the rest of the series, but I think in these first two episodes, there is some lacking from those two characters. And this episode, I put together that Tom Maryland is not in this at all yet, which I think is quite weird. We'll see when he comes in. I don't think they're just going to shunt the character, but who knows? That's a notable weakness. I don't really like the Nynaeve. She disappears and is carried off by the Trollocs, but now she catches up with them. To me, that doesn't really make logical sense that she'd be able to do that. Definitely that she wouldn't be able to sneak up on land. So, like, it's a little bit of a tension that kind of goes nowhere for me. I did like the subtle thing at the beginning where Matt's like, can you imagine if Nynaeve with us, how much she would, like, argue with the Aes Sedai no matter what and make it miserable? Because that's exactly what happens in the book, because Nynaeve is there from the beginning. I thought that was really hilarious. Final point, the White Cloaks really like sort of the daylight evil, so to speak, that the White Cloaks represent. And I think they portrayed that perfectly with that opening scene where he's eating and drinking and enjoying this delicacy while burning this woman alive whose hands he's cut off. Like, the menace, and whoever that actor is, like, fantastic job. I think that's excellent, excellent, excellent. So overall, after these first two episodes, I'm really digging this. There's some missteps, but there's always going to be missteps. And overall, I would like to see a little bit of a change in palette and cinematography and how they use particular scenes and scopes. But for the most part, really enjoying myself. And I think Callie will eventually get into it too. We'll see. All right, Callie, what'd you think? Season 3, did you like it? Or excuse me, episode 3, what'd you think? Not much. Lick my hand if you think it was a good episode. Nope, I tried, people. All right, so episode 3, kind of by a mile, is my least favorite episode of the 3 that dropped here in the premiere. Yeah, so some basic thoughts. I realize my main problems with a lot of this is the direction, and I'm not a huge fan of it. I know something I noticed halfway through is the cameras are always doing one of two things. One, doing extreme close-ups, or maybe not extremes, but close-ups, getting kind of permanent to the face, or it's moving. There's always movement to the camera, and I don't know if you guys can notice, when the camera's moving, you're not able to focus as much on what else is happening. And I think the compounding effort of that, the moving of the camera, or really close close-ups, is that nothing feels quite real. And on top of, I think, that directorial choice, which I'm not a fan of, I think the world building is somewhat odd and sort of jarring, and I think that takes me out of the story. So, for example, at Chagar Logaeth, this company breaks off into three like smaller companies, which does happen in the book. In not the exact same way, but roughly the same idea. But in this, all three of those groups, Perrin and Egwene, Lan, Nynaeve, and Moraine, and then Matt and Rand, are in like completely different, not just places, but like ecological environments. Like Egwene and Perrin are in this like arid, high altitude, desert like, almost New Mexican plains kind of place. And then Lan and Moraine and Nynaeve are in this like misty, wet, northwestern like forest. And then Rand and Matt are in this like rocky, high place, kind of like the Sierra Nevadas in California, or something along those lines. This very rocky terrain, and like they were together at Shigar Logaeth like one day ago. So like it just doesn't make sense that they're in these different places. Which, again, this is a small thing I know, but it's sort of compounding. On top of that, the like towns, so like the town where Matt and Matt and Rand end up, is like there's too many people. It doesn't seem like a real place. Like, there's like one or two or three buildings and like a mine like thing, but there's like hundreds of people in this inn, and it's supposed to be like this main waypoint. But it doesn't make sense for this main waypoint in this like weird mine town. So just stuff like this is kind of like compounding upon itself and not quite working. Same thing with Nynaeve being able to take out a Trolloc single-handedly in that pool and being able to track Lan. At least they like reference that as being sort of mysterious, so they're not just gonna brush it under the rug. But a lot of this sort of compounding to make it feel not quite real, and that's where like the best fantasy makes it seem plausible within the rules of the world. Both Lord of the Rings, Game of Thrones do that well, but it's hard. It's a hard balance to place. I just don't think they've quite had it. And I said like the directorial debut is not great. Some of those negatives out of the way, I will say this is by far Rand's best episode as far as like having a little bit of personality with some jokes at the beginning, and then his relationship with the innkeeper, who turns out to be a dark friend. I thought that was really well done. Honestly, for a second, I thought I had missed something when she had introduced herself, and that was Min, because there was so much chemistry between them. It's the most chemistry Rand had ever had in this series. So I paused it to kind of check, the I think they call it Amazon X-ray, like tells you who's in the scene and the name of the character. And it was Dara, not Min. So I was like, okay, maybe they changed the name of Min and then it became a dark friend. And I was like, oh, this is really good, because that's a big theme in the book, is that like anyone, anywhere could be a dark friend and have knowledge of like these people running from the Trollocs and the Midral and the Dark One overall. Really like that. I haven't talked about it yet, but I like the dream sequence. They're not overdoing it. It's a little overdone in the book where everyone's having these red-eyed dreams. So I think those are positive. I like the sort of wolf theme around Perrin. And I will say I love the sort of question in the air of, if someone is the Dragon Reborn, we don't really know who they are, and they're not even tipping their hat as far as like character development. Like I think Egwene, Matt, Rand, and Perrin are all getting sort of equal time and equal story lengths, to where you're not really sure like which one of them could be the dragon. Oh, excuse me. Any of them could be. So I do like that they're doing that. It is late at night here. It's like 2 a.m. But I do this for you, YouTube. So let me know what you think of Wheel of Time. Overall, I've really enjoyed it. And I think this show could really like grow into itself. They just renewed season 3 this week, so it's going to have time to do that. So there's really no excuse for it not becoming sort of growing into itself. I think this is a great positive start. Really loved it. I never thought I'd see this story on the big screen. I think they can improve, but overall, a really solid start. And I hope people watch it. I'm also curious if you're out there and haven't read the books, how you are feeling after these three things. Because obviously, I'm looking for very particular things. I've read the books twice, so like I know the story. But I'm curious how people liked it. Yeah, with that in mind. So let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching. As always, first in, last out. Hey, Callie. Callie, you want to say first in, last out? First in, last out? No, just very comfortable. Oh, there. First in, last out. There you go.